Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I don't do this program by myself.
Nope. I tend to help out when I can. My name is Mike P. Waworski. I am your co-host from the East Coast. That's the co-host with the most from the coast with the most. Here on the Rundown, bring you 2A news, conservative views. And Greg, it's Taco Tuesday.
It is Taco Tuesday.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos. It's raining tacos out in the street. Tacos, all you can eat. Lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos. Yum, yum, yum.
Yummity yum.
Yummity yum.
Gotta love Taco Tuesday. Gotta love a good song. Gotta love a good theme song. Gotta love a good theme song.
So today I had the daughter with me, right? She's on summer vacation. She was trying to get her little summer job set up, and she got to go with me past my favorite taco truck in all of Central Florida. And I said, "Do you want a taco?" And she's a taco fan. She said, "Yeah, but just one." So I went in and I was like, "I know she's gonna want two." So I got four. Two, and it comes in one plate, two for her, two for me. My next stop was 2 minutes away, right? So I figured I'd let her eat her tacos and I'd have mine when I get back out. I go inside, I come back out, and she goes, "By the way, you need more tacos. They're all gone." So we had to go back to the taco stand to get my lunch.
Just to get you some tacos, huh?
Yep. Oh, but I also do. I've got one of those. You know the cup holder where you put change in your car?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's full of salsa now too, so I got to get in there and clean that up.
That's okay. You're introducing a whole new generation to a blessing of America, because really the taco has become, in my opinion, more American than Mexican at this point.
Well, listen, there's Mexican tacos and then there's that Taco Bell crap,
Right.
So I think we're introducing to America to Mexican tacos, but the only bad part is it's at these, sketch ass taco trucks. That's the problem.
Exactly. That's the problem. It's like, okay, do I want indoor plumbing or do I want good tacos?
Salmonella, maybe get shot, but they're good tacos, so
they're good tacos. It's worth the risk.
It is. That's it. Yeah.
Gotta live life dangerously, Mike. Gotta live life dangerously.
There's the new slogan right there. Sketch tacos.
Sketch tacos. Look, but see, that actually, it's not a put down on the tacos. It's actually like, I'm willing to put my life at risk for this taco.
It's like pretty much every other meal in Afghanistan, but that's a different story. We used to travel from camp to camp just so we didn't have to eat our crap anymore. So,
excellent. Hey, folks. Hey, however you're watching or listening, do us a favor. Please remember, like, share, subscribe. Let your folks know they can watch us on YouTube. They can watch us on Facebook. They can watch us on Opslands or on Spotify. Or you can listen wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be iHeartRadio, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or once again, Spotify. You can listen and watch and enjoy. And then, by the way, participate in the conversation. Now, to participate in the conversation, you kind of got to be watching this live. And by the way, that's 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. It's 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. You can join in the conversation, and we will look forward to having you join us. But remember, tell your friends.
You say 2 p.m. Pacific, like that matters to people because listen, Craig, I know this. East Coast time is the only time that really matters, right? And here you could just say it's at 3 o'clock, right? You could say, well, what time is it? It's at 3, or it's at 4 o'clock. It's at 5 o'clock. Everybody knows it's exactly what time. But when you say Pacific time, you have to say 2 p.m. Pacific because people know you really mean East Coast, but you want them to do math. So,
well, no, I just know that there are many of us who are behind enemy lines. Who need to know the approximate time. We need to know the exact time that it's going to be happening. See, where the war is being fought, we kind of need to know because we need to get our marching orders. So,
well, yeah, but it's kind of like the war in the Ukraine. It's so old we don't even care anymore. It's just, it's just. Uh,
I feel like
no,
those
but seriously, like,
sometimes I do feel like those Ukrainian soldiers have spent over the last few weeks where they're just like draining liberal
yeah,
bombs on us, and we're sitting in the trenches just waiting
yeah,
for our shot, and eventually they're gonna run out of ammo.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's just. We'll just keep sending you money because we like you, but we don't like you. We're not sending people. Uh,
Except when it comes to conservative politics, California is actually the ones sending money to the rest of the country. California is where all the big time politicians come to raise money.
well, sure, because they know their money doesn't have a chance there, so they want to Republican politics anyway. Yeah.
Well, okay,
Uh,
so I actually now this is interesting because this actually leads us into our first story of the day. There is a chance, and I say a chance because talking anything conservative in major cities in California is a pretty big deal. But right now, NBC News is actually ran a story, and it's kind of interesting. But they're talking about a rebuke of the left in major cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco. And they're talking about how there's an ex-Republican billionaire, because obviously, if you're going to run for mayor of Los Angeles, you can't necessarily run as a Republican, or at least people don't think that you can. But basically, they're talking about how right now in Los Angeles they are close to getting enough signatures to oust their Marxist district attorney. How they may elect a former Republican billionaire to be mayor. And in San Francisco, where on the ballot, there people are going to have the opportunity to remove from office their Marxist district attorney, Chesa Boudin. Now, the thing that they're pointing to, Mike, as the number one reason why Republicans, or at least why Democrats or at least the far left, may fall victim to losing their elections, largely has to do with crime. Now, Mike, I know it's been a long time since you've been to California, but Los Angeles and San Francisco, I mean, they've been. I mean, San Francisco's been a poop hole for a crap hole for a long time.
yep.
But it's been metaphorically mostly. Over the last, I would say, decade, almost a decade, it's literally reverted into an actual, forgive my French, shithole.
Yeah. Well, you got the poop and the needles on the street, right? That's
Right.
something we all know. Yeah, it's Craig. I saw this story and was like, "Ooh, I want." Is this real? Is this actually a chance, or is this a pipe dream? Is this one of them stories where it's the tail wagging the dog and you hope it catches on? Is this true? Because when we looked at the election there, or the recall election with Gavin Newsom, that went nowhere. The rest of the country heard about, oh, the great red wave is going to hit California, and then it was by 20% margin he kept his job. So I was very curious whether this is something real, or is this just a bunch of bunk?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to keep things in perspective. Number one, when you talk about, first thing to realize is right now California is looking at record low turnout. Now, mind you, they mailed ballots out to everybody, so everybody got their ballots in the mail. But right now they're looking at record low turnout because no one's sending their ballots back in. Because guess what? They're not excited about the Democrat. The Democrats are not excited about the Democrats on the ballot. And, they're definitely not going to vote. In many cases, they're not going to vote for the Republican on the ballot unless they don't know the person is a Republican. Right. But in this case, for example, a mayor in in L.A., a guy running for mayor in L.A. who's a former Republican, but he's not a Republican now. You've got a person running for attorney general who's probably one of the leading candidates, Anne Marie Schubert, who is the district attorney here in Sacramento, who was a registered Republican, who is no longer a registered Republican. But the big thing here right now is crime. And the one thing that Democrats know and they'll never want to admit is that they don't trust Democrats on crime. And when they did finally trust them on crime, you got what you got.
Yeah. Lies. We can't help the crime, although we did just get rid of bail requirements, and we dropped this all to misdemeanors instead of felonies. But we can't do anything on crime. Yeah, they just lie. It's just
at this point, people recognize. Look, they're the one. It's all their policies. Everything
Yeah.
that's out there is their policies, and they're
Yeah.
seeing it fail them. And the funny part is that they're using their own words. And what may wind up happening, like I said, is that Democrats may just simply not show up, which means that Republicans and independents, who in California tend to lean 2-1 towards Republican,
Right.
they're going to be more likely to show up. And the difference between, I think, this election and the recall was, unfortunately, in the recall, and as much as I like Larry Elder didn't have a message that resonated with all voters. And not only that, the media wasn't helping him tell that story. Whereas what you're having now is you have some Republican statewide candidates who have a better story, or at least
Yeah.
at local, who are resonating a little bit more. I don't know that this wave is going to continue into the fall general election,
Right.
but I do think voters in the primary are going to send a message to Democrats.
Well, this will be good to see. This will be good to see. Your primary is today, correct?
Yes, our
So
primary is
we
today.
should know this. We should know this by about midnight, right?
Well, no, you never know now with all the mail-in ballots being,
Oh, yeah.
so prevalent. You never know.
Yeah.
But I think in many cases you'll know unless it's like really, really close. And
Right.
and from all the poll indicators, like guys like Chesa Bodine, he's out. There's no way he's
Wait.
going to have
Did
an
you
opportunity to
say-
win. Keep
did
in
you say
mind that a
Jethro
lot of the
Bodine?
voters, a lot of people who voted to elect him, a lot of them have left. And the demographics of San Francisco is kind of changing, because it's hard to not be a multimillionaire living in San
Right.
Francisco.
Yeah. Did you say Jethro Bodine? What did you say?
Chesa Bodine.
Oh, I thought you said Jethro Bodine. I was like, I thought he lived in Beverly Hills. So
Jethro Bodine.
pi r square, pi r not square, pi r round.
Anyway, I'm hoping that we see more of this. Like I said, I was on a show last week where you had a person who was literally, I think that it was for Beach City Radio, which is a black-owned radio station down in Southern California. And it was funny because they expected, I was the pro-gun guy, and they expected the other person to be the anti-gun person. And she was like, she wasn't necessarily pro-gun, but she was like, lock those criminals up.
She was pro law and order. Yeah.
She was definitely pro law. She was definitely pro law and order. And
There you
even she recognized, a lifelong Democrat recognized that they've jumped the shark on this whole smart on crime thing, and it's not working.
Yeah.
And the people who are being victimized are the very people they claim that they want to help. Which, by the way, is exactly how most liberal policies work, isn't it?
Yes.
They institute policies that wind up hurting the very people they say they want to protect.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Funny how that works. All right,
Yeah, shoot
moving
the
right
bird in the foot
along.
every time.
Speaking of hurting those that they claim to protect, the liberals, the left, are always talking about how they love the children, right? They want to take our guns away so that they can protect the children. Well, we all know that is actually not the case. They're not actually interested in the children, because one only need look at who they support when it comes to education and education reform. Every single significant education reform that has been put in place has been opposed by the teachers union. And every single issue that we have has largely been related to or come from the teachers union. In fact, Bloomberg, who is a major Democrat anti-gun donor, has actually said, look, he's warning America's public school system is failing. And by the way, he would be right. On broad, I'm not saying that every school in every school district is failing, but many, many are. And a lot of that comes down to the teachers unions. Now, Mike, I will always feel like we have to clarify in that putting it at the feet of the teachers union is not necessarily blaming the individual teacher. Many teachers are very, very, they're excellent teachers, and they're doing what they can in the system that they can. The problem with their union is that, number one, many of them are controlled by urban, inner city, big time left wing unions. So you have many smaller rural school districts where the impact of the teachers union on that local district may be positive, but broader in bigger states, it's actually more negative. The other thing is that you got a lot of conservative teachers, a lot of conservatives or Republicans who are teachers. The problem is, it's kind of like the same issue we deal with when it comes to the Second Amendment. There are a lot of people who are either gun store owners or people who are FFLs or people who are shooters or gunsmiths who don't necessarily get engaged in politics. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad gunsmith or that they're a bad FFL. It just means that they aren't as engaged as they need to be when it comes to the policies that affect their industry.
Right. Yeah. We say a lot of, just because you're in the gun business doesn't make you a Second Amendment advocate. It's a business. That's what it is. Craig, in the union, and I've been a member of a union before. What percentage would you say in these teacher unions that those that are the vocal, speak for the rest? What's the real number there? Because we
it's
see
probably about 10%.
Okay.
As with any organization, it's usually about 10%. Of people are in an organization are the most vocal and active. And that, by the way, that 10% tends to be the left of the left.
Oh yeah, always. Yeah. And I know we got, so that's in your California union, teacher union out there. That means the other 90% are either, content with what's going on or on the opposite side and still content with what's going on because the union, keeps them from having to work 1,000 hours a week, and with no shoes or whatever. I'm sorry. That's what unions used to do, not what they do anymore.
Well, and it's like people are like, well, politics is, oh man, politics is of the devil, and only evil people are involved in politics. And it's like, that's because you choose not to get involved. I said the problem is that you have ceded your authority to someone who is wholly opposed to everything that you stand for, and you're allowing them to represent you by your silence.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So even if you're in the union, fill out your surveys, let them know what your choices are. Don't just ignore it.
Or run for office. How about that? How about run for office in your local union?
Yeah, I guess you could if you don't mind beating your head against the wall, and that that's the way to make to make your policy known, though, and make your side known.
Well, I can tell you, for example, my wife is actually the president or vice president of her local CSCA union, which is the classified workers. Which are the classified workers in the school. They're called CSCA. Once again, most of the leadership there is basically center to center right. Even amongst our teachers, we have a very good relationship where they have significant members of their leadership who are center right. By people who care being involved, you focus on the core things that a school district or the union is supposed to be talking about, and not in a bunch of this other political stuff. So being involved does make a difference.
Yes, it does. It just does. So you got to get involved. You can't, what is it? You can't sit back and complain if you're not doing something about it, right?
Exactly. But yeah, whether it's school choice, which they have fought against, whether it is testing and accountability, allowing teachers to receive, for example, bonuses when they do well. Right. And I'm not talking about, they're like, oh, well, the people only get the best kids. They're going to keep getting the bonuses. No, if you can actually, for example, reward a teacher. So like you test a student at the beginning of the year, you test them at the end of the year, and then a teacher should receive a bonus based on how many students progress and how far they progress during the year that they're teaching. Right. That's the way the rest of us get bonuses. Right.
There's got to be a method, but at that point, Craig, here's the counter argument, right? You want my raise to depend on what somebody else does, So say you're the teacher that gets in there and hammers away on math all year long, and then the kids resent you and they do bad at the test at the end of the year because they don't care. It's just I agree. I think it's a great point. It's a great way to measure, but you're putting the variables in there of personalities now. So I don't know, but it's better than anything we got. So I'll go with it. Until we come up with something better.
Part of being a teacher is being able to work with other people, even if those other people are little people.
Yes.
And we have found year over year, with some of the teachers we have, that some of them year over year, no matter what the group of kids they're working with, they do well in terms of helping those kids progress or improve or develop knowledge over the year. That means they're doing something right. And that's once again, separate set of kids every year. Why should
Yeah,
a
no,
teacher not be
again, listen,
rewarded for that?
I'm there. Listen, until
Yeah.
unless we come up with something better. I've said this to you before. It sounds like it works, and it works for me. I'm for it. I know in Florida they got rid of the testing per grades for not for to get the student a grade, but to get the school or the teachers a grade. They got rid of that because it ended up being the whole focus was teaching the student the test rather than teaching them the material.
Right. Well, and we don't do what I like about the way we do it is a lot of our standardized testing is about measuring their growth. And
Right.
honestly, we don't pay as much attention to the statewide testing as we do to the district-wide testing that we do. And we do it
Right.
largely so that it's more about the individual student. So the goal is
Yeah.
I now with the testing can identify, okay, this student is strong in these areas, needs some help in these areas. So then when I do my specific work with each student, I know the areas that I need to focus on in order to get that student where they need to go. That's what it's supposed to be about. Not
Yeah.
about, once again, grading the school or anything like that.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah, because from year to year, especially in districts that are that are low income, they tend to be what's called transient districts, which means, half your students are with you that are with you this year, or a third or significant number, we'll say, may not be with you
Yeah.
next year. So it makes it very difficult to track them in terms of where they're at and what their success is and whether or not you're being effective.
Right.
We specifically pull out numbers for students who have been with us year over year so that we can tell in general, how are we doing as a district?
Right. Right.
Right. But yeah,
Yep, I
but
like
but those are the sorts of things that many teachers unions fight against, unfortunately. But I think you need
Right.
that sort
Yeah.
of accountability so that we can, and even if the accountability is just on us, the district, so that we can know what we need to be changing in order to be more effective.
I like it. I like it. Again, it's a solid measuring tool. Let's go forward until somebody comes along with something better. Let's do it.
Yes, sir, Bob. Yes, sir, Bob. All right, moving right along. Okay, so you guys remember the McCluskeys. They were the folks who there in Missouri when the Black Lives Matter protesters broke into their community, were walking through their neighborhood and were threatening them. They actually stood out on their front porch with their firearms and made it very clear, yeah, no, you're not going to destroy our property, yada, yada, yada. They basically exercised their fundamental right to keep and bear arms. Now, we may all have issues with their firearms handling prowess, but nonetheless, so basically they were brought up on some serious charges, right?
Yes.
It was in fact a malicious prosecution, and as a result, they wound up accepting pleas, which amounted to a slap on the wrist and surrendering of the firearm. But as a result of that, both of them being attorneys, they were actually reprimanded by their state bar. And in essence, since then, they have been pardoned by the governor there of Missouri. And now they are trying to get the sanctions from the bar overturned. And the Supreme Court has decided that they are not going to review the sanctions against Mr. McCluskey there. And basically, so he will not be getting his ability to practice law back before whatever the suspension time is that they had given, whatever the sanctions are. Mike, what are your thoughts on this story?
Yeah, and Craig, remember we got to make sure we got the order of things right here. We've got like you said, they got charged with this horrible crime there in St. Louis. They pled out to these tiny little misdemeanors, which were, I mean, just the lowest of misdemeanors with a small fine. They both went that way because it was really just one of those. Okay, it's in the best interest. All right, we can plead to these, not have to spend 3 years in court over some stupid felony, and just be done with this. It really came down to, money, right? Is what it came down to. They said they did the balance of how much is this going to cost, how much time is this going to take, and they decided to go for the misdemeanor. Well, we know that the prosecutor there, like you said, it was malicious prosecution. She ended up losing her job over it as well. So she's out. But the governor said, okay, this was a malicious prosecution. I'm going to pardon them. So the two of them were pardoned. Well, Craig, there's still a lot of Democrats in the state of Missouri, so and including the Democrat state Supreme Court. So they recommended it. The Bar Association recommended they go up for review, and they agreed, just like you said. We're going to suspend their law license for a year. It went to the state Supreme Court, wholly Democrat, and they said we uphold their finding. So the McCloskey said, "Screw this. We're going to the federal Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court," and the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear it. Now, Craig, when you read into this the rest of the way, because remember it's a CNN story, so you got to go in there and read what they told you, and then you got to go find what they didn't tell you, because remember CNN is always misleading and trying to bias you one way. What we know is that the McCloskeys got the 1-year ban, but the ban is on a suspended sentence pending if they complete a 1-year probation or not. So they can continue to practice law as long as they don't violate their probation within this first year. If they violate their probation, again, it's probation from the Bar Association. It's not probation from the court. So as long as they don't violate anything else during this year, nothing bad is going to occur to them. So I believe that's why the Supreme Court said, we don't need to hear this, as it's already resolved. As long as as long as you continue to be good, everything's okay. Right. So there's nothing that the Supreme Court could do to remedy this situation. It's already remedied.
Yeah, right. By the time they actually tried to remedy it, the suspension would probably be done and overturned, and so it really didn't make any sense for them to hear the case. But you're right. What all this really is, it's a political hit piece against the guy running for Senate in Missouri.
Yep. Yeah. So CNN
CNN
tries to make it sound like this is something bad that happened to him, when it's the opposite. The Supreme Court said there's no harm. There's been no harm to them. So
well, and with that, I would just say this. This is what happens, folks. Just understand this. Be very, very, very careful when you decide that you're going to plead out on something, because oftentimes they are not going to tell you what the consequences of pleading out to some of these things are. In many cases in laws, for example, in California, there are no, for example, if you get convicted or you plead to a prohibiting misdemeanor, when I say prohibiting, I mean it's a misdemeanor that will cause you to either permanently or temporarily lose your right to keep and bear arms in the state of California. The court is not obligated, if it's a misdemeanor, to tell you that exactly what you wind up losing. And so you may not find out until afterwards, until after you've given up your rights. And in this particular case, when they pled, they had no idea that they would probably then be disciplined by the state bar. And so, hey, that's what happens when you plead out. So always be careful even when you admit to something that you did not do, understand that you then oftentimes will be held accountable to take the full weight of whatever you pled to.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on here. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. And now we get to move forward. Craig, they even said in this article that McCloskey running for Senate, not the front runner. And I'm like, wait, what? Wait. And you go back and you look at the stats and you're like, they don't have a problem lying to you about anything to try and get you to believe what they want you to believe.
Well, exactly.
By the way, folks, if they say he's not the front runner, they're hoping that, well, if he's not going to win, I'm not going to waste my time and go vote for him. That's the result they're hoping for.
Exactly. That's, it's funny. Now you have in California, you have in a number of races, you have the Democrat candidate actually running ads in support of the most conservative candidate, trying to say, okay, well, we don't want the establishment or the moderate Republican to win because we believe we can beat the conservative.
Yes.
But then they're actually in the attorney general's race. They're actually spending money running ads in support of the conservative candidate. And I'm like, I'm like thinking to myself, to the Democrats, you don't want this guy to win, because if he does, people are going to vote for him. If he's the nominee, he is going to make your guy look like an idiot.
Yep. Like a poopy face. Yep.
Yes,
exactly
just
right.
like the poopy face. And you can tell who the moderate candidates are, because most of them are they make up most of the candidates endorsed by the California Republican Party. The Democrat wing of the Republican Party in California.
Yeah, let's make sure we're not talking about the California Republican Assembly. That's different.
No, the California Republican Assembly is the Republican wing of the Republican Party in California.
Yep.
And it's sad that you have to point that out, but yeah, there is a well, they're more the Democrat light wing of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And that would be the California Republican Party, the official party, which, by the way, is why so many Republicans or conservatives have left the Republican Party in California.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to our
Greg,
next topic, Mike. And I want you to introduce these. What are we talking about when we're talking about Major League Baseball boycotts?
So let me ask you this: we're sitting right here on the clock at the appointed time and place. We want to push this one for tomorrow, or we want to trudge through and do it.
Let's trudge through and do it, man. I want to talk about both of these.
Bonus
stories.
time, baby. Bonus time. Here you go, folks. A little bit extra minutes for you. Major League Baseball. You guys know I'm a ball fan. Love the baseball, right? And I've said to you, and Craig and I have had this conversation on here before. The difference between Major League Baseball and hockey and some of the other sports is the wokeness in it. You know, hockey said no. Baseball one day said yes, and then took backlash from ownership that kind of got them to set back on their heels. Well, here we go again. We've got the commissioner's office deciding the policy for Major League Baseball rather than the owners of the teams and the players on the teams. So the commissioner's office came down with, well, it's June, so we're going to support the LGBT community here throughout the month of June. And they went out and got all these designs made up for LGBT logos and put the rainbow into everything. And members of the Tampa Bay Rays, American League East baseball team, said, we're not wearing that. And the members, it was 5 of them, and they said we're not wearing your logos. But if it's my jersey, I want my regular logo on there, and it's just a white. It would be a white and yellow sunburst for the Ray, and same thing for the hat. We don't want I don't want the rainbow flag in the back of my hat there, in the shadowing of my hat. So, and when asked about it, and they got together, they had one spokesperson from their little group, and they said, basically, not to quote to Austin Powers, but it's not my bag, baby. It's not my thing. If you want to celebrate amongst yourselves and do that with your own community and do that, these guys had no issue with that. They're not anti, because that's how the story is going to be told, right, Greg? They're not anti LGBT. They are pro themselves and pro their own beliefs, and they don't want somebody else's beliefs on their clothing.
Well, and that I think you just hit the nail right on the head. Is that they are allowed to, in freedom of speech, they are allowed to express. They cannot be forced to communicate a message that is contrary to their religious beliefs, and that's really what it comes down to. Is they're like, look, I don't support that because that's not what I believe, and I will not be forced into actually supporting it. Anyway,
yeah, and some of these guys, it sounded like they were just, there was a bit of a difference. It wasn't that, again, there was no anti-LGBT. It's just they're not pro, and if I'm not pro,
and
I'm
that's
not wearing
the
it.
problem. Is it's like, look, I'm not saying it doesn't mean that you're against it. Everyone has a right to live their life, but you have a right to not be forced to celebrate and honor something that you're opposed to. You shouldn't. No one should be forced to do that. That's called forced speech. Right.
Yeah.
And no.
Yeah. So anyway, the whole league has been designated by the commissioner that they have to pick one day to do this at a home game. And I think because of these 5 players here now, you're going to see other teams and other ownership that are going to say, okay, I'm easing back. I'm not doing this. We're not doing this either. Whole teams, because when they tried to do the BLM thing and the Major League Baseball supported BLM, we saw the commissioner colluded with 8 teams and left the other 22 out of it. And when they tried to force it upon the other 22 teams, those owners went nuts. And I think you're going to see that again now that you've seen some players stand up. And again, there's nobody out there that we're talking about that's anti. It's just, it's freedom of choice. It's free, it's the freedom of choice. I'm not going to you're not going to change my beliefs. If you as the team want to have this belief, put it up on the stands. Put it on a billboard. Put it on a poster. But not on the players themselves. You can't paint the players.
Let's get on to the other boycott.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. This one's pretty good. Manager out with the San Francisco Giants, Gabe Kapler, and that's not the guy from Welcome Back, Kotter, by the way. Gabe Kapler. He decided he was not going to come outside or take any part in the Pledge of Allegiance, not the Pledge of Allegiance, the national anthem. Well, they played recently the Chicago White Sox, who's Tony La Russa, and if you know Tony La Russa, this guy's old school. Okay, this guy's swinging a bat all day long. He's that kind of old school guy. And when he found out that the other manager was not going to be supporting the national anthem, he made an issue out of it. He said, this is our nation, this is our country, this is what we're supporting. If you've got problems with it, you take it up whenever you want to take it up outside. Now, these are two managers going against each other. Gabe Kapler said, I don't agree that America is in the right place where they say we are in the last line of the national anthem. And Tony La Russa called him out and said, well, maybe you shouldn't be here at all. Maybe you and your team should all sit down. And it was pretty little heated conversation. But I believe La Russa came out on top. And I think Kapler, the only reason he won't take a hit on this is it's San Francisco.
Well, I'm surprised they still play the national anthem at San Francisco Giants games, period. And anything San Francisco, I think they're going to change it to Lift Every Voice and Sing, or the,
right.
The Black National Anthem. In this case, you have two guys who are expressing their opinion, but ultimately, here's the thing, folks. If you decide that you're going to protest during, and this is what I got in an argument with someone about Colin Kaepernick and all that over the weekend. Not so much, I was explaining my position. I said, number one, I watch politics, I watch sports as an escape. And when you decide you want to protest during an event that I am paying for, and you want to put it in my face, then that bothers me, because now I'm paying for you to protest in my face. No, I'm sorry. It's the reason why I've stopped watching the NBA. What I like at least about my Cowboys is my Dallas Cowboys don't do that. I can't say that's the same for all of the NFL or most of the NFL.
Jerry Jones, the man.
I'm not going to pay for you to protest in my face.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I mean, would they do this in a movie, right? If you had a movie about something you're trying to be, get your point across, would you stop and wave the banner during the middle of the movie? Just doesn't that take you away from the commitment to the movie itself that you're supposed to be in? Yeah.
Exactly. All right. With that, let's go ahead. Let's get into our parting shots, and we got a few of them. Some of this kind of goes with some of the discussion today. Obviously, we try to be very, very careful about what do you call it, about gendering people, which, by the way, goes into this particular meme.
Yeah.
All right. For those of you who are just who are listening, it's basically a guy kneeling next to a person who is down. That appears to be a woman, and says, "Is anyone a doctor?" Then there's what appears to be a woman holding a coffee. Well, it's a woman holding a thing of coffee, saying, "I'm a doctor. What is happening? Heart attack. I'm a doctor in gender studies. She's going to die. She ?
She.
Right. By the way, just an FYI, just because you have a PhD does not make you an MD. Don't equate yourself. Don't try to equate yourself. Sorry, but no. Okay, here's another one. And I've seen this actually happen a few times. They have these non-binary shirts are available in two types. You have non-binary pride flag shirt in women's and non-binary flag shirt in men's.
Great job. Great freaking job. Great job.
For those of you who do not get it, if it's non-binary, why do you need a men's and a women's t-shirt?
Non-binary. Great
right?
job.
You want to say one has broader shoulders, one with the tinier waist, whatever it is. But yeah, you don't need men's or women's. And then finally, why gun control? Because armed people will not willingly load themselves into railroad boxcars. Ain't that the truth? Ultimately, that's why people want to disarm us, because, well, they can't control an armed citizenry.
That's right. And exactly right. Listen, I'm not going to go into the history of it. You know the history of it, folks. Just don't let it happen.
Yes,
Let's-
sir.
let's-
Yes,
let's-
sir.
let's
All right.
fight
How about a
together.
quick shout out to our sponsor, sir?
All right, let's go with Gorilla Machining there, because I know you yelled at me yesterday for saying manufacturing. Gorilla Machining, the Grid Defense, the California Republican Assembly, and our good friends at uscombatgear.com.
Folks, once again, phenomenal groups. All links in the description of the video. Go there, check them out, spend some money with them. All worthy causes, to make sure you tell them that the folks over at The Rundown sent you. And with that, we're going to call it a day, and we will be back tomorrow on Hump Day.
Oh, no.